And hello and good afternoon. We are live from Newark, Delaware, welcoming our special guest for this Success in Minutes Superstar show. And I apologize. I think he might be calling in. Dave, are you trying to get in the studio? Are you trying to get in on the studio? Well, I'll tell you what. Some people will make prank calls into the studio anytime they want. Mr. Dave Tiberi, thank you for the laugh. I'm now waiting for our friend, Bob Klein. And this is Bob. Bob, I'm on the air looking for you. Oh, no, I already had set it up, my friend. Let's see where we can go here. In your on your Google Plus, there's a link that went to you about 4 hours ago to watch it, and then about 5 minutes to participate. You want me to post the invitation in your Facebook message? Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see. Hmm. Under your notifications, you should see a little bell that shows your invite. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Folks, I apologize. Just a little technical difficulty here. Um, I think Bob and I were confused as to who was setting up the Google Plus, but hopefully those of you that are on the East Coast got your invites about 5 hours ago, and those of you on the West Coast are up and ready to participate. So here we go. There we go. Should be connecting soon. Might have a little signal challenge here until we get Bob on the air live. Let me see if I can screen share some things here. Like, for instance, Bob Klein's Facebook page. Wanted to surprise some of you guys as to who our guest was, but you know what? This guy's so popular on the net, it's almost impossible to introduce him without people figuring out. A little signal challenge here.
Okay, are you?
So we get Bob on the air live. Let me see if I can screen share some things here. Like, for instance, Bob. There you are, Bob. You're going to turn off the other video? There he is. All right. Wanted to surprise.
Okay, I apologize. The invitation came through on my phone and and on my computer, and I'm not sure. Can you see me? No, you're just seeing a picture, right?
I'm just seeing a blackout and now a picture. I see a picture of you now.
Okay. I'm not sure that I know how to turn on the camera.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what I can do is,
Hang on, because we got to do that. Okay. I'm
oh,
sorry.
there's a picture.
All right. It says my camera is on.
Do you have a cover on the lens?
No, I don't have a cover on the lens. It just says live, and it shows me talking. And hang on, we're going to figure this out. Sorry for the audience here. I just downloaded the new app last night,
Ah, okay.
and obviously I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, you must know what you're doing in some areas of your life because you're very successful, my friend, and you're a great professor of the lifestyle experience.
Okay, did you share this with the public so the public is seeing us set this call up?
Yes, that's correct. That went out about 5 hours ago. Had a couple people reply that were not available, like what's our buddy from California, LeBurn.
Okay, well, let's do this. I don't have the camera, but
Okay.
as
You have
long
the
as you're
picture
happy,
though.
yeah. All right, let's go on and do whatever you would like to do. And I so apologize. I tried to prepare with the new app, and obviously I blew it.
Let me see if I click on your profile.
No, I'm sure it has to do with the app on my phone, and it has nothing to do with your end at all. I can see
Yeah.
you. I can see you on the. So don't worry. Let's just go ahead and do what we intended to do here, and we'll do the best we can. Unless you want to stop it and start over, we could try it from the other direction.
Well, I think what we're going to do for now, since we do have this started, and oh, there you go. Oh no, okay, that's the other screen. All right.
That's just
What I'm going to do, Bob, is I'm going to share your Google Plus page while we're listening to you. Okay.
all right.
And
You can share whatever pictures you want. Just don't share the ones that where I look really bad. You know.
absolutely. I only show the ones with you and your beautiful wife. Uh, and why don't we start the show right now? It's almost 12:12 East Coast time. And for all of our guests, I am so blessed. It's such a privilege to have this person on the show with me today, the Success in Minutes Superstar Show. Not only is he a double diamond with the Unlimited Profit Success in Minutes program, but he has documented success in this profession for over 20 years. This man, before getting involved in our profession, was a corporate leader. He is a well-educated man. He has multiple degrees. Our friend Robert Hollis jokes him sometimes he has more degrees than a thermostat. And one of the things that really connected this person and I is our ability to look at things with an engineer's perspective. We have an analytical view that sometimes can be our handicap, but hopefully you'll believe that most times is a gift where we get to see how we can help people from a heart-centered place because we have that analytical ability and can go right to the core of what needs to be healed and what needs to be removed as far as blockages so that people can really live their best life. They could be in that flow of abundance. And the other thing you're going to see about this gentleman is that he always likes to have fun. I mean, there are pictures all over the internet of him just kicking back, having fun, whether it's in Mexico or in Southern California, or even when he made that trip to Delaware in the rain and just went all over the place to meet with some of the people because he has such a heart to help people. Without any further ado, would you please welcome to the show Mr. Bob Klein?
Well, you know what? I'm so excited to be with you, Paul, and I so apologize for my technology stumble this morning. I have another interview back to back after this one, and so I got to really figure this out. I don't know what happened, but thank you for all those kind words. And yes, I am excited, and I love life, and I'm very, very blessed. And you know, there was a Bible study that I took a long, long time ago, and then I walked through the Old Testament, and the summary of it and the premise of it was that you know we are blessed to be a blessing, and I just believe that, and I always believe that you know we should try to leave each person we come in contact with in you know happier and better off for having had a conversation with us. So that picture you see that's with the circle there, that's me in front of the Grand Canyon, and I was there with my family, and the other picture, which showed a jacuzzi, is at our favorite spa down in Mexico in Lake Chapala. It's heated by volcanic steam. You know, it's just a lot of fun, a lot of yeah, we love to live life. But you touched on my story, Paul, and I just want to touch on that for people. Yeah, I worked my way up the corporate way and got the education and went back and got more education and even more education, and then got downsized out, fired, terminated in a very rude way, with no warning whatsoever, escorted off the premises by security as if I was a criminal. And I was just, honestly, I was just trounced, and that happened a long time ago, and that's when I became an entrepreneur. Now, that would be a very negative thing. It was for me, and it would be for most people. But honestly, it's what started me on the road to entrepreneurship immediately, and because I couldn't go back into that system. And my passion really is now looking for people that could get blindsided like I did. It's a lot more common now than it was then, and you know, there's so many alternatives so that you don't have to have that traumatic thing happen like it did to me. I mean, we couldn't pay the mortgage; it was due within 1 week. It was really a bad situation. So that's me. But you may have some specific questions. I'm happy to answer anything that I can. I do want to say this, Paul. I came back to Delaware, and I met with you many times, of course, in person, and also we spent the day at the spa in Corona, California, together. And we were good friends, but I admire you for the heart that you have for helping others, and for the you know, you've been through your own path, you've had your own challenges, and yet you always come up a winner. So it's always a pleasure to interact with you, and if I can help anybody that you are in connection with, then I'm certainly glad to do that.
Well, thank you, Bob, and we'll definitely have more opportunities to do Google Hangouts together. I know that when we first met officially in 2001 in Laguna Beach, California, I was studying to be a professional business and life coach, and studying in Malibu for a little over a year with the Newfield Network Institute. I know that everything happens at the right time, at the right place. And when I walked into Robert's home, Robert and Terry's home there, they sure as heck didn't expect me to stay for a week, but they were gracious enough to allow me to stay for a few days. And I knew I was supposed to be there because you and Robert were just mind mapping at the time unlimited profits. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
And what came from that is what we're seeing today, nearly 14 years later, two cycles of 7 years of incredible workmanship and craftsmanship and dedication to a vision that Robert really has for helping 1 million people. And actually now that vision is expanded to many millions of people. as Unlimited Profits is on its way to becoming not just a multi-million-dollar company, but a billion-dollar company. So I'm not sure what time you've got to go to your next show or interview, but I have on my calendar for the next 22 minutes, I'm all yours, and I want to introduce the audience to someone that I have had the pleasure to not only get to know you as a friend, but as a business partner in watching you help other people design a life that is really more in line with their purpose, a lifestyle. And that's how you've got the name of Lifestyle Professor.
Well, when I was practicing real estate, I really went the non-traditional route. And meaning that I got into creative real estate, we were able to close a lot of transactions in a very bad economic time using creative formulas. And those are not taught in the mainline educational institutions, but obviously they work. And, through Robert Hollis, before we began Unlimited Profits, I learned of some resources that would be called a creative side that definitely are not in the institutional academic community. And books like The Science of Getting Rich, Think and Grow Rich, and some of the other books that they've crept more into the public eye, but they're still not. You can ask college students or high school students today, the book Think and Grow Rich, which has sold millions and millions and millions of copies. I don't know that it's not outside of the Bible, maybe one of the most published books that's ever been written, and it's still not in our public schools, and it's not in our colleges. And I'm saying in general, there may be some scattered universities that have it, but the point is, think and grow rich. People are not taught to think and grow rich. They're taught to work hard and grow rich. And that's not how richness or wealth happens. And so once I began to learn that and study that, as you began to study coaching, it sort of opened my mind. And I can give Robert Hollis credit for raising my level of awareness. And movies like The Peaceful Warrior, if you haven't seen that movie, those of you that haven't seen it, or the movie The Secret, or read the book Who Moved My Cheese, or there's many, many other books out there now that really are, what can I say? They really stretch your mind, and it never goes back to where it was. And that's what happened to me. I began to study it, and I began to see what was going on in my life, and that I was getting results. And I was beginning to learn and understand. And now my job is really to help open people's minds to the possibilities. And you're running through some pictures I see there on the slides. There's a picture went by with me and my Mercedes convertible, and there was another picture there of what looked like some land. That's where we're building our dream home. Excuse me. We've been very blessed, because I've never lost sight of the fact that really people need to have an opportunity to think differently. The wealthy think differently. And, you're coaching people in business and all walks of business, and I'm sure you're running into the same thing. They came up with academic training, and they're trying to run the business from an academic perspective, when in reality, that's not how it works. It doesn't really work that way. Business is of course, there's certain guidelines, but your mental attitude is, absolutely the most critical thing. Your mental attitude. And Zig Ziglar said it's my favorite quote. It's a biblical principle. You have to be before you can do. And you have to do before you can have. And if you get those out of order, obviously you don't have if you don't do something. So, most people don't get that out of order. But the being part, of being the kind of person, having the right mindset, being enthusiastic and passionate. Yes.
Yeah. That's right. No, I'm listening to you. Go ahead.
And I just, I even though I've studied that and studied that and studied that, every time I find myself sharing that with someone else, I'm reminded that I have to keep pounding that into my own thick skull, that the being part comes first. So, For example, when you get up in the day and you say, okay, what am I going to do today? You're already putting the wrong foot forward. It really needs to start with, who am I going to be today? What do I want to be like today? And if you start the day with that mindset, the day goes different. That's why it's so important to have a meditation in the morning, prayer and meditation, maybe spend some time in the Word, because that is all about being. That's none of that's about doing.
That's right. You know, one of the things that you gave me about 3 years ago, I think it was, that was really helpful for me to look differently at the mind movie that plays in my head is the amount of detail that you put into your mind movie. You shared with me a group of slides. I think there might have been 200 or some slides of pictures, and also a audio file about When We Believe by Brandon Jen or something like that. And I still play that song while I flip through a slideshow of photos that are consciously chosen by me to reinforce in my mind what the vision I believe God has for me and for my family, so that I stay anchored into that state and that positive mindset of moving in that direction. Because we live in a world today where there's so many different things that are vying for our attention. And without getting too far off course, you could definitely teach some things about this. What I would like to share with the audience, though, because we only have about, maybe 16, 25 or so minutes left, is how did you, as a very educated man, look at the online marketing side and buy into it 100%? There are so many scams out there and so many people that are just disrespectful and sharing things on the web, that why would you go from such a professional academic area and participate in the internet marketing area? Anytime someone gets involved in being a pioneer, we know that it's not going to be easy, it's not going to be pretty, but it can be worth it. So, I mean, I don't want to give you the answer, but kind of take us on your little thought process there, my friend.
Well, a lot of the successful people I know in online marketing or network marketing, multi-level marketing, they didn't have an education. They came up without a lot of education, and for them, it wasn't a transition like it was for me. Like you say, it was just an alternative to them that looked a lot better than breaking down tires in a truck stop, or in other types of jobs that of course Robert Hollis was a mechanic and an excellent mechanic, but it for me, I honestly was so bitter about the corporate world after what happened that when someone showed me another way, I began to look into it. And I have to tell you that I had these feelings that, wow, I sure wasted a lot of money and time on my education, and I'm not using it. But in reality, I am using it, because I still believe that people should go to college. I just don't think they should go to college to get a job. I think they should go to college to get an education. It's totally different.
Right,
It's
right.
totally different. So if you go to college to get a job, people are telling you, well, this class is required because of this, and you're going down an engineering path or a medical path. Just had a really brilliant young man last night that we met at dinner. We were chatting with him, and he's in music. And I said, well, do you have your own company? He said, yes, I do have my own company. But he's waiting tables at Olive Garden. And I said, well, wow, that's interesting. You're in school. He says, well, actually, I'm not in school right now. I dropped out of medical school.
Whoa.
I said, wow, that's amazing. See, his passion for music was really what was going to drive his life all along.
Hmm.
See, all along. But, he followed the same way I did. The parents said, hey, you want to be a doctor or an attorney. And so he was either going to be a plastic surgeon or an anesthesiologist, which, of course, both of those require not just a general medical degree, but then you got to go on for those specialties. He was looking at 8 years of education, and he began to look at that industry and what he was going to have to do when he got out. And even though they make a lot of money, he thought, you know what, that's just not me. That's just not me.
Right.
And so
Did
even
you
though I
end up,
felt,
did you, excuse me, Bob, did you end up recruiting that guy into your ACN business?
no, I just met this gentleman this just happened last night.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. Okay.
Of course, I have his contact information, and I will be talking to him about unlimited profits, because every musician, artist, even performers, because I work right next to Hollywood, they don't make enough money in their passion to really support themselves in the early years. So having an alternative source of income is really important. So an extra $4,000 or $5,000 a month enables them to do music the way they want to do it and become the kind of musician they want to become. So I've talked to musician after musician after musician after musician, and they all face that same challenge. But I felt guilty about giving up my education, because it was, I was feeling I was wasting it. But, my own kids, I'm glad they're in college, and I'm glad they pursued an education, because it's important. We need to know, we need to understand, but we just need to learn how to use that education as a tool, not to build somebody else's company, to be honest, but to build our own life and what we want to have. So you're flashing a lot of pictures on the page there, and you're showing my Facebook page there. Yes, I went to Georgia Tech. And, I just got to tell you that I want to go back to this movie that you said I made and the slides I gave you and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I gave you that as an inspiration for you to design your life.
Yep. And I did.
And you and
And I
Angela,
did.
and you and Angela Joe have begun to live a life of that. You're headed, I think, ever since then in a direction where you want to go. So, when I asked this young man last night, I was actually having dinner with Oscar Tolentino, who's a pro in Unlimited Profits, and we were talking about what he really wants. What he really wants, and what kind of lifestyle he really wants to have. What are his passions? What does he like to do? Now, this man speaks very fluent Spanish, but he also speaks Italian, and of course English. The potential and the possibilities for him are just unbelievable. So we began to talk about that. He's already involved in several global trade businesses, as well as Unlimited Profits, but he hadn't focused yet on really what he wanted to do with the results. And it's really important to remember. People go, okay, when I'm like this young kid, when I make enough money, then I'll become a musician. Another musician said to me last week, said, when I make enough money, I'm going to buy my concert bassoon. He's a bassoon player.
Uh-huh.
And he's in line to become a pro. And I said, no, it doesn't work that way. You've got to have your dreams, and you've got to take the step. You've got to be, you've got to step out in faith. I guess that's where, but in order to step out in faith, you have to have that picture of where you're going. Those slides that I put together was a statement of who I am and what I want. About 20 of those slides are about who I am, and the rest is, what I want to do. Who I want to be with, who I want to spend my time with, my family, where we want to vacation, what kind of cars we want to drive, and then how we want to give back to humanity. And yes, it took me a long time to put that together, and I still modify it all the time. And I recommend people start simple with just take one goal. Maybe it's easy to focus on something physical like a car or a boat or a house. But just take one and make it very, very, very real. Describe it. You do that in writing and with pictures. And that's why I used a slideshow, because I could put a caption under each picture and I could make it flow and cover different areas of my life. But
Right.
now it's 220 slides. And I was just telling the story yesterday, and then I'll shut up, of how I met my wife. And believe it or not, before the slides, I actually had 3x5 cards interspersed with quotes and Bible scriptures. I had a deck of cards, but some of them were pictures, including the sailboat that I wanted and the car that I wanted. And I still got that deck of cards, but that evolved into those slides. And one of the cards was a description of the perfect woman for me, because at that time I was single. And I was divorced, and I wrote that out, I tried to get a picture in my mind, and I could see her shape from behind and her hair and everything, but I couldn't see her face. And so when I did happen to meet my wife, and I wasn't even thinking about that card. As a matter of fact, at that point in my life, I'd stopped looking. But when I met my wife, it was one of those things that was so powerful. She didn't speak English and I didn't speak Spanish, and so it was a tremendous. I don't know what you want. You talk about a pop,
Right?
Because I didn't.
Right.
We didn't have words to exchange to each other. It was only feelings that we were experiencing. And it wasn't a sexual attraction. It wasn't anything like that. It was just extremely strong feeling of attraction. I mean, and I'm not talking about a feeling like, okay, I feel good today, I feel happy. No, it was a physical feeling inside my chest. It's really strange. But to make a long story short, we have so much in common that it is amazing. She's already, she'd seen The Secret. She's already read the Spanish version of Think and Grow Rich and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and listens to audiobooks, those kinds of books all the time. Anytime she's on a trip, she's got an audiobook that she's playing. I think, when we first met, of course, we couldn't speak. We got invited to a party, a business party, and they had a dance band there, and we ended up dancing together. Now, she can't speak English, and I can't speak Spanish, and she invited me to dance, and she remembers it distinctly, but I don't even remember how I got on the dance floor, but we danced for 3 hours. We danced until the band stopped. This is the power of these cards. This is the power